Historic wedding today, Princess Leonor marries in Denmark _ changes royal history forever. A Spanish princess, a Danish prince, two royal families, two countries watching, but no one expected this. Today, history breaks tradition. Because love rewrites the rules. And a future queen just made her boldest move. The morning air in Copenhagen was still. But there was a tension, electric, royal, sacred. A future queen of Spain was about to walk down the aisle. Not in Madrid, not under the shadow of the Spanish crown, but in Denmark. A quiet yet thunderous message to the world. Princess Leonor of Spain, heir to the Spanish throne, raised under the weight of expectation, schooled in diplomacy, in duty, in restraint, but also in love, something her father once fought for and her mother, Letizia, never compromised. Across the North Sea, Crown Prince Christian of Denmark. Charming, steadfast, the face of Denmark's future. A young man who grew up surrounded by royalty but grounded by the quiet elegance of Queen Mary, his Australian-born mother, and the steel resolve of King Frederick, his father. Two lines, both destined for thrones. One wedding, and a new chapter in European history. But this wasn't just about love. It was about legacy, and the risks taken to protect it. As Leonor stepped into Amalienborg Palace, she wasn't just walking into a royal household. She was walking into history. No Spanish heir to the throne had ever married a foreign royal in this way, not as a passive bride, but as a sovereign woman, choosing love on her terms. Cameras were everywhere. The world watched, breath held. And yet, somehow, in that grand cathedral, it felt deeply personal. Intimate. As if time slowed. As if the crowns, the protocols, the politics, paused. Queen Letizia, tearful but composed, sat beside King Felipe VI. Her daughter, her legacy, was stepping into a role no one could have predicted. And yet, she never looked more certain. The last time Spain saw this kind of history was in abdications, upheavals, and transitions of power. This time, it came wrapped in white lace and royal silk. But why Denmark? Why now? Why this union? The story begins years ago, quiet meetings between the Spanish and Danish royal houses. Exchanges at state dinners, shared glances at official events. But behind the scenes, something else was building. A friendship, a bond, and then, a secret courtship. It was subtle, measured, and fiercely protected, because this wasn't just a romance. It was a negotiation between heart and crown. For Leonor, the stakes were immense. As heir, every move mattered. Every decision echoed through the corridors of Zarzuela Palace. A Spanish queen consort from another royal house could shift alliances, change diplomacy, rattle tradition. But Leonor wasn't becoming someone's consort. She was becoming a queen in her own right. And Christian wasn't just a prince. He was a partner who understood her burden. Sources close to the palace say King Felipe had doubts. Not about Christian, but about the optics. About public reaction. About Spain's fragile trust in its monarchy. After all, memories of royal scandals were still fresh. But Letizia stood firm. She had once broken royal tradition to marry for love. And now her daughter would do the same. Tension simmered between generations. Advisors warned of backlash. But Leonor, trained for war rooms and summits, didn't flinch. She had already served in the military. She had already stood on her own in Asturias, taking the oath of allegiance at 18. She had already proven she could carry a crown. This was no rebellion. It was a declaration. And Denmark listened. In Copenhagen, Queen Mary saw in Leonor the echo of her younger self. An outsider to the system who reshaped it with grace. A woman who knew diplomacy was not just treaties and titles but relationships. So, the royal houses met. Terms were discussed. Roles negotiated. But the core remained. This was not an alliance. It was a union. The wedding wasn't grand by royal standards. It was elegant, yes. Regal, absolutely. But also human. Tender. Emotional. From the moment Leonor entered the cathedral, eyes locked with Christian, the centuries of history behind them dissolved into one shared future. Vows were spoken in Spanish and Danish. Tears were shed, by mothers, by monarchs, by millions. The world, watching from balconies and broadcasts, felt something rare: sincerity. Royal weddings are often spectacles. This one was something else. It was a message that royalty is changing, that women are leading, that love, when guided by purpose, can be revolutionary. Outside the cathedral, crowds gathered. Not just Spaniards or Danes, but people from across Europe. Flags waved. Children smiled. It felt like hope, like a reset. But not everyone celebrated. In Madrid, critics warned this might weaken the Spanish throne. Questions rose about succession, about loyalty, about the balance between duty and desire. Would the public accept a queen who didn't marry within her own realm? Would Leonor's reign be seen as emotional overcalculated? But Leonor had already answered. By standing beside Christian, not behind him. By retaining her Spanish titles. By planning to split time between Madrid and Copenhagen until her ascension. This wasn't abdication. It was evolution. Royal watchers compared the moment to Queen Victoria's marriage, how it shaped Europe for decades. Are Princess Elizabeth's choice of Philip, controversial then, defining now? Only time will tell what Leonor's wedding truly means. But one thing is certain, the monarchy she will lead will not look like her grandfather's. Or even her father's. It will be hers. And it started today. Back at the reception, a soft melody played, an original composition blending flamenco strings and Nordic piano. Guests dined on a fusion of Spanish seafood and Danish rye traditions. The speeches were short, poignant. King Felipe toasted not just the couple, but the courage to choose love. And Christian's father, King Frederick, echoed it. To love without fear, to lead without doubt, and to remember that crowns are heavy, but lighter when shared. As the evening drew to a close, Leonor and Christian danced. No royal formality, just a couple in love. In step, in sync, surrounded by history, creating their own. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, a young girl watched on a screen, dreaming of queens not trapped in towers but walking beside kings. Somewhere else, an old monarch remembered the day he married, and hoped this time, history would be kinder. And across Spain, a people once disillusioned by monarchy found themselves drawn to it again, not for the power, but for the purpose. The crown remains. But the story changes. Because today, love didn't just win. It ruled. And Princess Leonor of Spain, Queen in Waiting, just changed royal history, forever.